I was living in Seattle at the time. And I said, okay, great. I go, what's your name? He goes, Steve. And I go, okay, Steve what? And he goes, Steve Miller. And I said, really? I go, are you the Steve Miller? He goes, what do you mean by the? And I said, well, there's probably a bunch of musicians named Steve Miller. It's a common name. But then there's the Steve Miller that we all know. And he goes, well, I'm the. And so it was pretty funny. So I ended up taking some pictures for him, and he used them on an album cover, and we kind of became friends a little bit.
Every fruit on the tree started out with a seed. So dare to believe the impossible is possible. So your deepest dream, grow your truest dream, bloom your freest dream with me.
Welcome, everyone, to the Artist Bridge to Abundance podcast. My name is Michele Renee Stone, and I am here today with Geoffrey Baris from Geoffrey Baris Photography.
Yep, that's me.
To get to know him a little bit better and talk about his career and learn some of his tips and tricks.
Okay. Well, I'll just start at the beginning. I studied photography in junior college, and then I got a job working for a photographer in the Bay Area. And then I wanted to work for better photographers, so I started working with photographers in LA. And when I was there, I met a really good fashion photographer. He said, oh, too bad I didn't know you a long time ago. I'm moving to New York. You ever thought about moving to New York? And I was like, sure. And so I packed up and I moved to New York, and I was a studio manager for about 3 or 4 years in New York. And he was shooting high fashion and Ralph Lauren and Estee Lauder and Harper's Bazaar and all the magazines, and it was a fun lifestyle. And then I started my own business in New York after working for him for about 3 years, and I struggled in New York, but I was shooting a lot of junk. I mean, a lot of magazines, but wasn't making much money. And I got a job for Cosmopolitan to go out to San Francisco, and my mom lived in San Francisco. I went out to do this job, and it was fall and it was gorgeous out, and New York was end of the summer, steamy and hot, and the only body living in New York was poor people like me, and everybody else was out at the Hamptons. And so I packed up my stuff in 2 weeks and moved back to San Francisco. And immediately, because I had been in New York and I had a portfolio of New York models, the local clients, I started working for Macy's and Victoria's Secret and a bunch of different department stores and whatever I could find. But I immediately started working and got a lot more work than I did when I was in New York. And then I was a fashion photographer for 35 years. I moved around a couple different places. I tell everybody I shot every catalog that they threw away. So basically I became the J. Crew kind of lifestyle photographer. I worked for Eddie Bauer, Land's End, LL Bean, Orvis, J.C. Penney's, Sears, all these different clients. And I basically spent the next 20 years or so traveling all over the place. All my work was location. You're shooting in the summertime, you're shooting winter. So people would come. I lived at Seattle at the time, and they'd come up to the Northwest, and we'd shoot on snow-capped mountains all over the Northwest and make everything look like Christmas, green and cold. And then in the summertime, I had another place in Miami, and all my clients would come to Miami, and we would shoot swimsuits and warm clothing. So after doing that for many years and traveling probably 200 days a year, I just thought, okay, I've had enough of this. And as soon as we would finish the job, I'd be like in Hawaii shooting some job. And the minute we were done, I would just grab my camera and start shooting nature and cool places that we were and all these different things. And I just kept doing that until I had a big bank of work. And then I started trying to promote my artwork, and I sent them to a gallery in Soho. And they were like, oh, it's been a horrible winter here, and your work is so colorful and refreshing, and how would you like to have a solo show? And it was in Soho. I mean, it was a couple story walk up, but it still was a gallery in Soho. And I had my first show, and then once I did that, I was like, that's it, this is what I want to do. And so that kind of led me to what I'm doing now. But I'm talking all.
No, that's totally fine. No, so you were hooked, right? So you started off all the way through. When we first met a couple of weeks ago, you said that you'd been shooting for 30 plus years.
Oh, yeah. No, I've actually been a photographer for 52 years.
52 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
But for 30 years, I was probably a fashion photographer for that long.
And so that's where you get to meet all the celebrities and everything.
I did album covers. I did all kinds of things. I worked for a lot of magazines, and so they would have me shoot celebrities for the magazines and different things. I worked for GQ and Mademoiselle and a bunch of different people shooting celebrities. I'll tell you one funny story. I got this call one day, and this guy goes, "Hey, I got your name from somebody, and I'm a musician, and I want to get some pictures taken." I was living in Seattle at the time. And I said, "Okay, great." I go, "What's your name?" He goes, "Steve." And I go, "Okay, Steve what?" And he goes, "Steve Miller." And I said, "Really?" I go, "Are you the Steve Miller?" He goes, "What do you mean by the?" And I said, "Well, there's probably a bunch of musicians named Steve Miller. It's a common name. But then there's the Steve Miller that we all know." And he goes, "Well, I'm the." And so it was pretty funny. So I ended up taking some pictures for him, and he used them on an album cover, and we kind of became friends a little bit. And I photographed him probably 3 or 4 times and went to a couple gigs with him and carried his amp for him. It was kind of cool. He was a cool guy.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I bet you've had a lot of experience like that with different famous people, if you will.
Yeah, I was never that affected by people that were famous. I more like was someone that they could be a friend with or
Right.
feel comfortable with. And so, yeah, I wasn't glorifying them by any means.
Right.
And I was lucky when I was a fashion photographer, I was doing lifestyle, so I wasn't really shooting the super high fashion models, although I did shoot a couple of them, but they were, all the models I ever shot were really nice people and, down to earth. And we'd always had great times and lots of laughs and fun times at our shoots.
Well, at the end of the day, we're all people.
We're all people,
Right.
I know, yeah.
So I have a couple of questions here for
Yeah.
you. So you've photographed tons of celebrities and then also everyday clients alike, right?
Yeah.
And so what do you think is the psychological difference between the two as a segue, photographing people like Steve Miller or versus photographing everyday people like what you do today?
I don't think there was really much difference. When I photograph somebody, I always tell them, "Hey, you have the easy job. You just sit there and I'm going to tell you everything to do." And I've always had a really good eye. I mean, I think that's why I was so many different types of photographer and able to do that, is I always just had a good eye for what looked right.
Right.
And when people are in front of my camera, I'll go, drop that left shoulder and lean forward and smile, but not that much, 10% more. I work them through the whole thing so that they're not just standing behind the camera and they're having to move all around. I'm telling them what to do. So I try to make their job easy and make them feel comfortable. And then there's always little tricks to getting the right angle on different people, or the way that if your camera's high or your camera's low, or the lighting's from the side or the lighting's straight on, or there's just all different kinds of tricks to make people look better.
And we're actually in your studio right now,
Yeah.
utilizing your background and your lighting and everything too.
Yeah, so hopefully we look good.
Yeah.
Although I've gotten now where it's really funny because I have a really great studio here. I love my studio. It's kind of my man cave, but I have a garage door that I open, and so almost everything that I shoot here now is natural light. I very rarely ever, I have my lights up now for this, but I very rarely ever do that. It's mostly just natural lighting, and it looks like it could be flash or whatever. I feel like I have a really good control over the natural light.
I would have to agree. All of the photography I've seen that on your website, even here, and even my experience with you when you did my artwork,
Yeah,
you had the door open
yeah,
and then just tried to figure out, if I do this,
yeah.
this looks better. If I do that, that looks better. So
Yeah, definitely. Natural light's the way to go, but it's not always that easy to be able to control it, which is really nice because I shot here for so many years. I have all the right little things and little tricks to make it look right.
yeah, and you know your space.
Yeah, I know my space.
Absolutely.
Just to say, so now I got this whole collection, and for many years I would just jump in my car when I lived in Seattle, and I'd just take off for 4 or 5 days and do nothing but take pictures. I'd go to harbors, and I'd go to forests, and I'd go to old buildings, and just shot zillions and zillions of pictures. I currently, on my art website, have almost 4,000 pictures.
Wow.
And I work a lot. So at first, I was in galleries, and they would do limited editions, and they would charge $3,000 for a 30 by 40. And I had about 8 galleries all over the US, but I couldn't make enough money. Maybe a gallery would sell 1 or 2 a year.
Right.
And I'd have all this expense of printing them and shipping them and everything else. And so I started working with art consultants and doing bigger projects. So I've had my work in convention centers and probably have my work in 300 hotels now. And I've worked with some of the art consultant firms that I work with. I've worked with for 20 years. And so I get a call at least once or twice or 3 times a month from the interior designer. And they like my website because maybe the colors they're looking for are blue and purple. Well, they can find something blue and purple on my website. Or maybe it's a hotel on the water and they want something abstract. I've sold a ton of pictures of abstract boats that I've shot at the boat show and in harbors. And I've sold a ton of work of water reflections, of just different colors being reflected in the water, making these abstract patterns. And that's kind of where my work is now. I'm in a large gallery called Five Deuces Galleria, and I have a studio here. I have about maybe 800 or 900 square feet, and I probably have a 400 or 500 square foot gallery of my work.
Right.
And so we do art walk the second Saturday of every month, and we usually have a new show in the gallery, and we have an opening night once a month. And then whenever I'm here, I put the open signs out front, and we're in the parking lot for Three Daughters Brewery, which they get 500,000 people a year that visit there. So whenever they have a car show or they have a good band playing or whatever, I try to be open and put the open signs out and just answer the doorbell when it rings. Yeah.
If people wanted to come see your artwork and it was not during one of those times, not during second Saturday or...
Yeah, I always tell people to either to send me a message on Instagram or Facebook, or my telephone number's out there everywhere, so they can send me a direct message. I usually have people do that at least once or twice a week, and they'll say, "Oh, can I come over at 1 o'clock?" And I say, "Yeah, sure." When I'm here, yeah, say yes.
What is your favorite thing to shoot?
It goes in spurts. That's the thing about one of your questions on your sheet there is about longevity as a photographer. I think that's probably something, I mean, for years I just shot water reflections. And then I really got into rust and peeling paint and patterns and stuff. And when I first moved to St. Petersburg, I never photographed a bird in my life. And then I got here and I was photographing all these birds because they're just walk down the beach, and every 3 weeks a different type of bird like comes in, and they're just these cool scenes all the time. And everywhere we're seeing with birds. And so that part of it changes, but I really do like photographing people. I think it's a kind of a neat way to get to know people and to create something beautiful. And it's always a good feeling when people see pictures of themselves that they really like.
Yeah, it really is. I know I was actually thinking about it on the way here. I have a son who graduated from high school a couple of years ago, and of course, you know, you go and you do the senior pictures and everything. And just having that experience with him, with all the different locations, change the clothes and everything. When I was growing up, we didn't have that. We were like, you have one outfit and a couple of different poses, and you choose from that.
And they should have been in the gym at school or something.
Yes.
Okay.
And so for my son, a lot of them captured his personality.
Mhm.
And I've seen on your website, you have different genres of photographs that you do. And so you'll do like the normal portraits, and then you'll do like the nature.
Yeah.
And then you had this one series that you did a while ago with the wings and...
Oh, yeah. I was telling you earlier that I was in Miami and I was involved in yoga and the spiritual community. And I'd go to all these big events where they'd have music and art and different things. And there were always these girls walking around, and they would have their faces painted, or they'd be wearing wings, or they'd be dressed all in white gowns or flowing gowns or something. And they'd always say, "Oh, she's such a goddess." And so I thought, oh, man, with my fashion background, these girls seem so beautiful and natural. I'm going to start taking pictures of them. When I started to take pictures of them, I realized that most of them were some kind of a healer or had some kind of spiritual practice. And so I started interviewing them while I was taking their pictures. And then I thought, wow, I'm going to do a film of these people. So I think I photographed about 20 different women, and all ages and all different types, everything from channelers to Reiki masters to yoginis to, I don't know, every kind of genre of that whole spiritual kind of thing. And it was profound. I thought that they really had a lot to say. So that was a fun project. But as you know, you're doing a video project. It's a lot of work. Editing, the sound, everything. It's a major undertaking.
It is, and there's a learning curve that goes along with it.
Yeah.
But as much as the learning curve is a lot, I also think it's very rewarding.
Yeah. The editing part was really difficult. I ended up hiring this young, talented film student, and he helped me kind of go through everything and until I could figure out how to use it. And then I started doing it all myself. But in the beginning, I absolutely needed somebody to help me cheat, so to speak.
I have a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And I've been doing lives on my YouTube channel for a good year and a half, 2 years. And then to create the videos to put up on the YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes you have to take a block of time when it comes to that and just really dedicate it. And so uninterrupted.
Yeah.
And just really focus so you can get it right. And I know that I'm very much an amateur at it, but I find it very rewarding. And I love to go in and watch the different ways that the different expressions that I make, the different ways that I talk. I use my hands a lot. My face is I'm definitely not a poker face kind of person. And so, but to learn all of those different aspects of it and then have that finished product at the very end there's no other feeling like it.
Yeah, and it's nice. I'm sure you get you get reviews of people that go, wow, yeah, I really resonated with that, or that really impacted me, or whatever. Yeah. And
so the video that you did of all those ladies is on your YouTube channel, is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't even looked at it in a year and a half, so I hope it's still there.
I'm sure it will be.
Yeah.
I'm sure it will be. So on your website, you guarantee people that they'll love your portraits, and that's a bold promise. What gives you the confidence to make that guarantee?
Just because I think I'm really good at working with people, and then also nowadays it's a total different thing than when I first started. I learned how to take a picture with somebody and make it beautiful without retouching it. But now there's just these programs that are unbelievable. I spent half my life as a fashion photographer waiting for models to get made up in the motorhome. And now I can take somebody with no makeup on and I can sit there and add longer lashes and eyeshadow and different color lips. And it's just incredible what you can do with these retouching programs. So I try not to over retouch somebody because you don't want them to look like a Muppet, and you still want them to look like themselves.
Right.
But once in a while I get somebody older in here and I'd be like, oh, can you get rid of that? Can you get rid of that? And pretty soon I'm like, you're 68 and you look like you're about 27. Well, it's perfect. I like it that way. But I guess it's up, they're paying for it, so whatever.
Yeah, it's one of those that maybe like softening some of the wrinkles, but when it comes to having those types of like characteristics on your face, it shows that you've had life, that you've had experience, that I think.
But I always tell people, the reason you have to retouch something is because I'm talking to you and you're talking to me and I'm moving and my face is moving, but I'm not like taking your face and going and looking at every
like
little.
we do with artwork.
Like I'm not looking at every pore and every little mark and every little thing on your face, which unfortunately when you take a portrait of somebody and you take a still photograph, that's what you're looking at. You're looking at a very close examination of somebody.
Right.
So you don't really want it to look any different than them, but you also don't want their face to look like, pizza with everything on it. So
pizza with everything on it. I love it. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. Which kind of brings me to the whole authenticity. You mentioned that retouching can adjust the makeup and the skin In a time where authenticity is really valued, how do you navigate that line between enhancing and the humanity and the honesty?
That's not what I do. I'm not a photojournalist. I don't go and take pictures of people and try to show every wrinkle in their face. I mean, once in a while, I have some friends that I've done some character pictures of with big beards and long hair, and you want those so that all grainy and kind of meaty. But most of the time, I'm trying to, when I'm taking a portrait of somebody, it's to make them look flattering.
Yeah.
And so I do retouch stuff. I'm not, as I said, I'm not a photojournalist. I'm not trying to just show what's there. I'm trying to create an image of them.
Got it.
Yeah.
When someone walks into your studio,
Mm-hmm.
what do you see that they don't often see in themselves?
You mean when I'm getting ready to take their picture? I don't know. I guess I try to make people feel at ease. People come in here all the time and they, I want to get my picture done, but I want to lose 10 pounds. And everyone's nervous because they want to look like themselves, but they don't really want to, like I said, that close examination.
Right.
And the only thing I do is just really try to make people feel at ease and look at them. And if they've got a large forehead, then you shoot low and you shoot up. And so the chin is bigger and forehead smaller. And if somebody's heavy, you don't shoot them flat light. You shoot them lighter on one side and darker on the other. So it makes their face look narrower. There's a bunch of tricks to making somebody look really good. And then the other thing is my artwork. So I have a whole gallery of my artwork. And when people come in, I love the fact that people walk into my gallery and my artwork's very different. I don't think you'll find too many photographers that have the variety. I try to find things that people don't normally see.
Right.
So I'm walking around looking at a scrape on the floor or some kind of weird cloud formation or some kind of strange tree limb or something like that. And so people walk into my gallery and they usually, a lot of times I get, oh, wow, I love your paintings. And I think it's such a good compliment because I don't want to be Ansel Adams. I don't want to go to Yosemite and take a picture of a waterfall with the mountain in the background, the right perfect light, or stay there for 3 days waiting for it. I want to go find things that people don't normally see. And I shoot, like I said, a lot of water reflections. And I have people email me all the time. Oh, I saw this and I took this picture and it reminds me of your work. And so I'm making people look at things ways that they never looked at them before.
So when they come in the gallery, you want them to really be surprised. I go to a lot of art festivals.
Yeah.
And I know that there's a lot of photography, and a lot of it just looks the same to me.
Yeah. It's all pretty pictures or bird pictures or sunsets and sunrises. And yeah, there's a lot of sailboats and there's a lot of those kind of pictures. I try to find things that are more graphic or they're more, I don't know, just different. I try to find different things. And I think you were also asking me earlier what advice I could give. When I was a fashion photographer, I would very often see some guy, another photographer in my business kind of come into the business and everybody go, wow, this guy's work's great. Mm-hmm. And then for years, that guy would just do the same thing.
Right.
Over and over again. And after a while, people were like, eh. And I always had an eye out. What's going on? What are people doing now? What's the fashion trend? What are they shooting like this? Are they shooting like that? Are they using this kind of equipment or whatever? I was always reinventing myself as a fashion photographer and also reinventing myself as a fine art photographer. And I think that's one piece of advice that I could give to somebody is that you can't just go out and try to shoot something that people are already doing and just do it a little better.
Right.
What you got to do is you got to make your own niche and find something that people will come in and go, wow, that's cool. What is that? Or shoot a lot of abstractions, so people will come in and go, oh, is that an owl? And I go, well, it's an abstract. Everybody sees something different.
Right.
So I kind of like the fact that you have to reinvent yourself all the time.
And so when you're looking for something to shoot, because you have the education and you have all of this breadth of experience, what are the key things that you go back to? When I think of photography, and I'm not a photographer,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a novice at best, but I always think of the rule of thirds. And so, do you use the rule of thirds more? Are there other tactics or ways that you shoot that you lean into more than the others?
I think as a fashion photographer, I just had a good eye. And it wasn't something I learned.
Yeah.
I just, from the minute I picked up a camera and started taking pictures, I always could find cool angles and cool shapes. And I think that rule of thirds all those rules just were already just in my head.
Okay.
I don't think that I learned those. People that I worked with for a long time that used me over and over again as a fashion photographer go, God, you have a great eye. Because we'd be at some beach and I go, okay, let's put her against that and then have that in the background and have that light coming over her head. And oh yeah, that looks fabulous. That looks great, And so as a photographer on these photo shoots, there'd be like a crew of 10 or 12 people.
Right.
And I was the one always going, well, let's go down to the other end of the beach because we can shoot back this way and the light will be backlit and the water will be glistening and we'd be like, okay.
Because they have to walk and
'cause
take
they
all
have
the
to
things.
take
Yeah.
all their stuff out there. I wasn't mean about it. I didn't make them do that for every shot, but I definitely,
It's more of an intuitive, already knowing kind of thing for you.
yeah.
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 Of your career, what has been like the hardest point and what did you learn from it? And how did you pivot as well?
I don't know. I guess there were points in my fashion photography where I moved or I slowed down when I'd have to reinvent myself and start all over again. That just happened a couple of times and it was more moving and the way my clients they would go, okay, here's our schedule for the year, because they didn't want someone else to book me.
Right.
So they would go, okay, we need these 2 weeks in April and these 2 weeks in June and 3 weeks in July. And they give me their schedule for the whole year. And then all of a sudden, maybe that client tried somebody else or they decided to go a different direction or something. And then you're like, oh shit, what do I do now? It's like I'm used to having, 40 days a year from this person.
Right.
And so, you'd have to reinvent yourself and find new clients. But I always had a studio manager. When I lived in Seattle, I had it's a long story, but I ended up with 2 natural light rental studios.
Okay.
And I had a studio manager, and she would manage them, and all the department stores in Seattle would come, and at the time it was Macy's and Nordstrom, and they would rent the natural light studios, and she would coordinate all that with them and take care of all the rentals. And at another time I had a t-shirt business, and I made one time on a shoot, somebody said, oh, let's go over there and shoot da da da. And I was like, come on, man, been there, shot that. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm going to make a shirt that says been there, shot that, been there, shot that. So I did that for Christmas and I gave them out. Well, I started having people call me, hey, can I get one of those shirts? I saw that. Those are so cool. And then I did one that, at the time they were doing that Got Milk.
Yeah.
And so I did one that said Got Film. And it was incredible. I had Fuji buy a couple thousand caps from me, and I had somebody else buy T-shirts for me, and I had about 10 different T-shirts, and I had about 30 photography stores selling all these kind of funny T-shirts that we would make. But that was another whole deal.
That's fantastic. If someone already had a photography business that was
Mhm.
going and they wanted to grow it, say, for example, you are in over 300 hotels,
Right.
what would you recommend for them to maybe start to go that direction and start to broaden their horizons?
A friend of mine said to me, you're the only one I know that on LinkedIn that's found work from LinkedIn. And what I would do is when I started out, I'd go to LinkedIn and I'd search art consultant.
Okay.
And I'd friend every art consultant that I could find. And once I friended them, you could go to their page and you could get their email.
Right.
And then I made a big list of all the art consultants, all the interior designers. I friended, I don't know, I must have 8,000 friends or something on LinkedIn. And so I ended up with a pretty good sized mailing list. And then I made up little PDF promos of my artwork and I sent them to them. And that's how I got going in the interior designer and art consultant business. And I don't know, if it's the same thing when I did it 20 years ago. I don't know how easy that would be to get back into it. Of course, like every business, there wasn't as much work out there as there is now. Now there's just a ton of work out there. I still get those hotel projects, but I used to get a lot more of them.
Right.
Yeah. And they paid better.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's kind of dumb. Like I just had a project and it's 450 pictures, all of the same image.
Okay.
Okay. And for a hotel room, and they paid me $8 a piece. Okay. So all I had to do was take that one digital image and send it to them, and they print it, they frame it, they give it to the client, and I'm like, yeah, I'll do that for $3,000-4,000.
Right.
Not a problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What a great way to
Yeah.
just...
Yeah. So working with those kind of people is great. I'm on a couple of their websites. There's some printing companies. I'm with Wayfair and First Dibs and a bunch of different bigger websites. I have people that have a lot of my work, and because they're big companies, they have a presence on these websites, and so they advertise my work on those websites, and so I get checks from them quarterly for those. They're not rich, but it's
nice.
It's nice. Like, oh wow, I just got $2,500 or $3,000 for the first quarter, and I didn't do anything.
Right. Passive income.
Passive income.
That's
Yeah.
the best way to do it.
Yeah.
You can figure that out.
Yeah, I'm working right now on trying to get my website to more of a selling site because I think I'm missing a boat. And that's where they are right now. They don't retail shop anymore. I have on my website now, oh, if you like that picture, copy the number and send me an email and I'll get your print.
Right.
Very rare that anybody ever orders a print like that. So I think it's better if you have it so it's just click and drop at 2 a.m. Somebody can't sleep and they see your picture and they can go, okay, I'll take a 20 by 24 and canvas it framed or
Right.
acrylic plexiglass or whatever, and they can just order it. So that's what I'm working on right now.
Awesome. And what are your thoughts on AI is really making a huge impact on the world right now? So what are your thoughts on art created by artists and photographers like
Yeah.
you and I
Yeah.
versus art that is created by AI?
Yeah, I'm not afraid of it at all. I think that I really was so afraid of it. As I told you earlier, I curated shows here. I don't think everybody's as freaked out over it as they were in the beginning, because what you realize is that AI looks like AI, and it's not an original piece of art. People aren't really interested in buying AI art. So I used to curate the shows here at Five Deuces Gallery for 5 years. I did that with another curator, Julie Horan, and the two of us together did the shows here. And so when AI first came out, I had some friends that were photographers that were doing some really fun stuff with it. And I thought, hey, let's do an AI show, and just to see what people are
Right.
doing and coming up with. So we did an AI show. We got so much flack.
Really?
I mean, we got, we post something about the AI show and everybody's like just slamming us. I mean, it was,
Wow.
yeah, this is
Okay.
when it first came out. And at the same time, like the Dolly was doing an AI thing where you could do your own AI Dolly thing.
Like
on the
surrealist experience.
Yeah, on the computer there, but you could make your own. And I don't know why you're getting all over us. We're just trying to see what people are doing with it. And
Right.
everybody was furious. I mean, they were disgusted that we would even do that, and AI was stealing their work, and AI was this and that. But it never really came about that way. I don't think any of the artists that I know are losing money because of that AI is being created. Commercially, yeah. I think design-wise, yeah, things like that. I love the fact that I can take one of my photographs and I can put it into ChatGPT. I can take one of my abstract photographs, like let's say a water reflection,
Yeah.
and I put it in there and I said, can you give me 10 good keywords that I can use when I'm posting this? I have like a whole program. Can you give me a good title for it?
Right.
Because it's hard when you have
When
thousands
it's
of pictures
right.
to title each one. Can you give me a good title? Can you give me a description of it? And I'm just amazed. It goes, well, this water reflection of blue and purple, the radiating light coming from, and it goes on, and then And then it gives you all these tags, like meta tags that you can use so that people searching for those things will find that photograph.
Right.
I love using it for that. And I'm also not a great writer. I never excelled in school. And so I love AI for when I write something, I can put it in there and just have it make it sound better.
So you're known for flattering lightning. Lightning.
I'm known
sorry.
for flattering light.
No, for flattering lightning. You're known for lighting that is very flattering.
Yeah.
And so when you think about when you're taking these images, is it more sculptural, more mechanical? How do you think about the lighting when you're taking these images?
I kind of, it's like the rest of my photography, really. I never do the same thing twice. You know, I'm always kind of experimenting with it, and I'm just enjoying shooting a lot of natural light. And I think if people were to look at my work now, they wouldn't even believe it's natural light, because I'm doing things like shooting into really strong white backgrounds. And in the old days, when I would light a white background, it'd take like 6 or 8 strobe units in order to make this whole white kind of glow thing that would come around and kind of shape the body and do these highlights in different areas and stuff. And now I'm just doing it with natural light. And I open my garage door and I have these thin drapery shears that I put over the door. This huge kind of garage door that I have turns it into like an 8x8 softbox. And so I use that a lot for the natural light, and I have different backgrounds that I kind of move in, but I'm always trying to do different things, trying wide angles, getting on a ladder, shooting down on, there's some shows that go on here. There's one called Nude Night. And so it's all nude kind of body graphic pictures, and there's probably 200 pictures, and that'll be next month in March here in St. Pete. And then in February, they have it in Orlando. And then during the summer, they have it in Miami. So those have been kind of fun. I've been shooting some things for those. And that's just always fun to just kind of treat the human body as a graphic piece of art and try to come up with, it's not like somebody looking hot, and naked. It's more like taking and making art with nakedness.
Right,
with
and
the
it's
human
more
body.
like the human form.
Yeah, the human
Right.
form.
Like
Yeah.
like going to a new drawing class.
Right.
Almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm having fun with that. And, that's about it. I mean, lighting is important. I mean, I think it's just something, the more you do it, the more you'll learn.
Right.
Yeah.
If you were to have a conversation with your younger self today,
hmm
what would you tell him?
I would probably say buy Apple.
Yes.
I don't know. I think I was too career-minded when I was younger. I had such a good time, but I had like 2 lives. I was married for 22 years, but I was on the road 200 days a year. And I think that it was hard on my marriage. It was hard. It was kind of like being a rock and roll musician or something. We were always on the road. We were always traveling with different people. And in those days, that's all I wanted to do was work. I used to come home and put my suitcase in front of the washer. I'd take my suitcase and put it in front of the dryer, just put all my same clothes in it. And then I would be home for 2 days and then gone for 2 weeks. And then maybe that 2-week job that I was on, I'd be in Mexico, and I'd fly from Mexico directly to Sun Valley and be doing the shoot in Sun Valley.
Yeah.
And I was like being on the road as a musician. I was always on the road, and that's a hard lifestyle.
Right.
Yeah, I think that a lot of things got thrown in the wayside because I was just, all I did was work.
All you did was work.
Yeah.
And so, as a last thing that you want to share with the audience, what would you want to impart on them?
Well, I think some of the things we discussed earlier, I think as any kind of an artist, you can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again.
Right.
You always have to reinvent yourself, because that's just how you grow. And I think that's really important. And I think as being an artist, if you really want to make a living in it, you also have to just forget the fact that you don't like marketing yourself, or you don't like selling your own art. When I was a fashion photographer, I always had a studio manager that worked for me I had an accountant that worked for me, or a bookkeeper. I had 4 portfolios in those days. That was really kind of more before the
yeah.
internet, where you could just have somebody look at your stuff on the internet. So I had 4 beautiful leather portfolios. I constantly was FedExing them to every new client that I would hear about or see or whatever. So I was always looking for more work when I even had enough.
Right.
So that when things did drop off, there was always that other client or a better client or one that would pay me more an hour. I mean, 35 years ago, I was getting paid $3,500 a day to take fashion photographs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that was significant.
the same $3,500 client I had would also pay me $500 extra a day for internet usage
Okay.
to use the images that we had on the internet.
Right.
And
Wow.
so yeah. But don't ask me where all that money is now, because
Well, but I think about like
Yeah.
life. There's a lot of millennials that are artists these days. And it's hard for them to conceive what we're talking about.
yeah.
Like pre-internet,
Yeah.
pre-AI. Well, I mean, they understand the pre-AI, but definitely pre-internet. I remember DOS systems.
It's a whole different world. I mean, technology wise, but that was one of the things that really changed everything was digital. When I was a fashion photographer, I was probably one of the top 100 photographers in the U.S. And I would say that there wasn't that many photographers that you could send to Mexico on a 2-week shoot. They'd be shooting transparency film, which had to be your exposures, your color balance. The cameras didn't auto color balance. The cameras didn't auto expose. You'd had to do all those things manually,
Right.
And then come back. Transparency film had very little latitude. So all your exposures had to be perfect. The lights going up and down, and you're adjusting, and everything was perfect. And I was one of the people that people trusted to take their next spring line of clothing, go to Mexico, shoot for 2 weeks, come back with 400 rolls of film,
Right.
and every picture that I shot was perfect. And then when digital came around, it was a whole different thing, because all of a sudden you could fix it.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it
There was
wasn't-
no
I-
dark room.
I knew how to take a good picture, and what Photoshop and digital brought into it was anybody could take a picture and make it look into a great picture.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you ever so much for
Well,
a
thank you.
wonderful interview and for sharing your time with us and your
Thanks.
expertise.
Well, thanks. I had fun.
Awesome. Jeff.
Thanks.
Seed to flower, magic's in your hands. You got the power, so go forth and expand.
I'd like to thank St. Pete Arts Alliance for their individual grant and making this particular podcast and everything that goes along with it possible. I'm so incredibly grateful to you. Thank you. WonderWorks is a co-working and co-creative event space located on Gulfport Boulevard in Gulfport, Florida. This event space offers co-working in a cozy cottage atmosphere Monday through Friday and special events on weekends and evenings. It is a true community gathering space, a blank canvas for your artistic, professional, and celebratory events. Click on the link below to find out more. If you like the podcast that you just saw, go ahead and click that subscribe button and click the little bell next to it, so then that way you're notified every time we load up another episode. Look forward to seeing you soon.